On day 4 of Brown's training camp, it became impossible to ignore that something different was happening. The air felt heavier, the crowd louder, and the murmurs around the field hinted at the same realization. Shadore Sanders had just arrived. This wasn't the kind of arrival that sneaks up on you. No, this was the kind that smashes through the front door, drops its bags in the living room, and declares ownership of the space. 8 completions on 11 attempts, 3 touchdowns, and 0 excuses for any doubter left standing. If you looked away for even a moment, you might have missed it because, while the national media kept themselves busy fawning over Joe Flacco's 5-yard dump-offs and Kenny Pickett's safe little read option plays, Shadore was slicing up the red zone like he had stock in the end zone itself. He dropped a perfectly placed ball to rookie Luke Floria, a laser to Cade McDonald over the middle, and a fearless strike to Diontae Johnson, threading it between 2 defenders with such precision that every Browns fan on the sideline stopped breathing until it hit Johnson right in the numbers. This wasn't a lucky stretch. This wasn't some garbage time against backups. This was a quarterback calmly and methodically showing he was ready to run the show right now. Yet instead of the whispers fading away, they only grew sharper, like static in the background getting louder the more you try to ignore it. Because as electric as Sanders was that day, the Browns coaching staff still refused to give him first-team reps. ESPN's camp tracker confirmed what fans feared. Pickett and Gabriel continued rotating with the starters, while Shadore was chained to the second unit. And with the first preseason game just days away, people started asking the same question Shadore has been answering since the moment he set foot in Cleveland. What more does this man have to do to be taken seriously? Let's be clear, this wasn't about luck. This was about command. This was a quarterback processing the defense like a 10-year vet, throwing with timing and poise that made seasoned observers mutter, "Wait, wasn't this the 5th-round guy?" Shadore Sanders didn't just score 3 touchdowns. He engineered 3 completely different styles of scoring plays that put his full skill set on display. First, the touch pass to Floria, dropped right over the shoulder just inside the 5-yard line, letting the rookie catch it in stride and waltz into the end zone. Not flashy, just surgical. Then came the strike to Diontae Johnson in the back of the end zone, 2 defenders draped over him like heavy coats in August. But Sanders found a window that didn't seem to exist and ripped it through. Finally, the rope to Cade McDonald over the middle, snap, read, release, touchdown, like it was drawn straight from muscle memory. That's 8 completions on 11 throws, over 70% accuracy, all without touching the field with the first-team offense. Compare that to the so-called front runners. Pickett tossed a pair of touchdowns but nearly got McDonald flattened at the 4-yard line on a late ball. Gabriel had 1 touchdown, but his biggest gains came from checkdowns and scramble drills. Flacco, the veteran, could move the chains a few yards at a time but couldn't find the end zone. Shadore, though, he kept finding pay dirt, again and again and again. And somehow, his name wasn't at the top of the practice report. He wasn't the one getting fist bumps from Stefanski, wasn't the one swarmed by reporters after practice. Why? Because Shadore isn't just battling defenders, he's battling a system determined to make him prove himself 5 times over before they even acknowledge the obvious. And if you thought that performance would finally force the Browns to give him a real shot, you'd be wrong. How does a quarterback go 8 for 11 with 3 scores and still not see a single first-team snap? That's the storm cloud hanging over Berea right now. The Browns keep telling fans this is an open competition, yet Sanders is stuck throwing to second-team receivers while Pickett and Gabriel take turns with the starters. That's not competition, that's politics. Stefanski claims they're testing everyone, but there's a difference between testing a player and freezing him out. And the camp reports made it crystal clear. In 7-on-7, Gabriel took the first crack with the top offense. Pickett followed. Flacco got his veteran quota of throws, and Shadore, he was left with a mix of backups and fringe roster guys. Even with that handicap, he still delivered the best showing of the day. The timing makes it even more suspicious. Just days ago, Stefanski told reporters he'd like to make a decision on QB1 sooner rather than later. Translation: the clock is ticking, and Shadore isn't being given a real chance to prove he should be the guy. And that raises the uncomfortable question: was Stefanski ever on board with drafting Sanders in the first place? Behind the curtain of practice schedules and highlight clips lies a tug-of-war that might have very little to do with on-field performance. In Cleveland, the quarterback battle isn't just Shadore Sanders versus Kenny Pickett, Joe Flacco, or Dillon Gabriel. It's a quiet conflict between the Browns owner and his football leadership. Multiple insiders have stated outright that Jimmy Haslam, the man signing the checks, was the driving force behind Sanders' selection. Haslam saw what much of the league pretended not to: a poised, accurate passer who had already proven himself on multiple stages. He'd seen Sanders shatter records at Colorado, claim the Johnny Unitas Golden Arm Award, and operate an offense with the kind of maturity you just don't teach. When the 5th round rolled around and Sanders was still inexplicably on the board, Haslam didn't just make a suggestion, he made it happen. But Andrew Berry, a GM whose personnel philosophy revolves around measurable traits and schematic fits, wasn't sold. Berry reportedly saw Dillon Gabriel as a better fit for the team's existing structure. A mobile, blue-collar worker who doesn't command headlines or disrupt the hierarchy. To Berry, Gabriel was safe. Sanders was a statement. And that statement might be exactly what Berry wanted to avoid. Kevin Stefanski, for his part, doesn't operate in a vacuum. He reports directly to Berry. That relationship is critical to understanding how reps are allocated, how rotations are managed, and why a player can light up a practice without moving an inch up the depth chart. This explains the subtle favoritism, the unspoken rules about who gets which snaps. On day 4, after Sanders' stunning red zone clinic, Stefanski shifted focus to new drills, offensive and defensive line one-on-ones, to ramp up competition. On the surface, it looked like standard camp intensity building, but to anyone paying attention, it felt like a strategic diversion to avoid acknowledging the quarterback who had just dominated. The coach's post-practice comments praised the group effort, but failed to mention Sanders' name even once. That's not an oversight, that's a choice. And when your owner backs a player and your coach avoids his name after the performance of camp, that's not coincidence, it's quiet defiance. For Sanders, it's starting to feel like déjà vu. This isn't the first time his talent has been overlooked, and it's certainly not the first time he's been asked to carry more than his share just to earn basic recognition. The slide to the 5th round had nothing to do with his arm talent. His senior season completion percentage ranked among the best in college football history. He walked away with the Johnny Unitas Golden Arm Award, an honor reserved for the best senior quarterback in the nation. He'd outplayed multiple quarterbacks taken in the top 10. The film was there, the numbers were there, the leadership was there. But the NFL isn't just about football. It's about image, perception, and politics. And Shadore Sanders carries a last name that rattles the establishment. Deion Sanders is unapologetically loud, proud, and unwilling to conform to the league's good old boy culture. And in a league that likes its stars humble and compliant, having prime time as your father is as much a curse as a blessing. The whispers began early. He's too confident. He's more brand than ball. His success is just because of Deion. Meanwhile, quarterbacks with less production, weaker arms, and smaller resumes flew off the board early on draft weekend. Sanders' drop wasn't about his play. It was about sending a message. Now in Cleveland, the disrespect hasn't slowed. He's thrown to equipment staff instead of receivers, been locked out of first-team reps, and been ignored after the best practice performance by any Browns quarterback this summer. The message remains the same: you're not one of us, yet. But if the league thought that would rattle him, they clearly haven't been paying attention. Sanders doesn't sulk, he doesn't whine. He shows up, keeps his head down, and does the work. The same patience that took him from doubted HBCU recruit to Power 5 star is guiding him now. Every rep he takes chips away at the narrative built around him. And while the coaches and front office might be able to control the rep count, they can't control the reaction from the fans. Because after day 4, Cleveland's fan base had seen enough to make up their minds. Social media lit up, not from national reporters or click-hunting bloggers, but from die-hard Browns fans who know bad quarterback play when they see it and good quarterback play when it's right in front of them. Comments flooded every platform. QB1 is right there and you're still playing politics. Start the kid. Shadore is outplaying everyone, and they're still keeping him with the twos. It's hard to gaslight a fan base that's watched decades of quarterback disasters, and Browns fans aren't buying the party line anymore. Isti,